Debbie Guy-Geesh, and welcome to my show, Get Real with Revenue Marketing. Twice a week, I like to take a pause because, as marketers, we're always crazy with activity. And in that pause, I like to talk to people who inspire me, who motivate me, and who are truly pioneers in revenue marketing. And the one person that if you put revenue marketing pioneer in the dictionary and you had a picture next to somebody's name, it would be today's guest, Christine Nurnberger, CMO of
Bottomline Technologies.
Bottomline Technologies. That's exactly right. I had some other company in my name. So welcome to the show, Christine.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
I got to tell you, I love working with you. I love interacting with you. When you and I get together, we have so many ideas and almost finished. I feel like we could just kind of finish each other's sentences, because we think so much alike. And as a matter of fact, I guess it was about 18 months ago, Christine came to me and she says, Debbie, we need to write a book. It's going to be called 18 Months to Revenue. Do you remember that?
I did. We'd still need to get to that.
We still need to get to that. Well, I got to tell you, I just finished my my book, my new book that's coming out. And thank you for taking a look at it. I really appreciate that. It's actually it's on Amazon today. I was so excited, Christine. It's on Amazon today for pre-sale. So I was so excited about that. But let's talk about revenue marketing today. And I think, Christine, that the role of the CMO is one of the hardest executive positions that you can hold today. So much has changed in marketing. I think more than any other executive spot, CEO, CFO, CRO, you name it. I think there have been more changes that affect the role of the CMO than any other role. So tell me, what does it mean to be a CMO today?
It's a great question. And I think about that a lot in the context of my own role and my team and what we're doing at Bottomline and what I see across the industry. And I think, business just runs at such a frenetic pace right now. And the way people conduct business has changed. And if you're not ahead of that as a CMO and as a marketing organization, you're going to be left behind. And so I think today, especially looking across the entire business, taking off your marketing hat and looking at areas where you can drive growth is the most important thing you can do for your business. And I think for a lot of businesses, certainly at Bottomline Technologies, the way we can drive growth and help our customers grow has changed in the pandemic. And if we didn't stop and recalibrate around that, we would have not been able to embrace the opportunities that have come through the pandemic for us, and also the ways we can continue to delight and innovate for our customers.
I definitely want to talk about the impact and what you've learned as a result of the pandemic, but I want to stay on this topic of today's CMO. And a couple of years ago, if a CMO was interviewing for a job, and the executive team was telling the CMO all of her job descriptions, and if they didn't mention revenue, it'd kind of be okay. But is there an executive team on the planet today that isn't hiring a CMO that can help drive revenue?
It's interesting. I don't know. It's taken a while for the executive team at Bottomline to truly understand and embrace revenue marketing, and now they are all in. When I joined Bottomline 6 years ago, it was, mailing out postcards and one-way email blasts and no tie to revenue, no tie to pipeline, putting in the systems, the infrastructure, the data, and then all of the programs that align with sales in order to become a revenue marketing engine has taken a while. But now that people see the impact that we can have, and we're driving upwards of 60% of new pipeline opportunities for the sales team directly, they've really embraced that. But I don't know. It's kind of one of those things. It's hard to understand it until you see it. And until you have somebody who can put the data in front of you and say, this is what a revenue marketing engine looks like, and this is what it's going to yield for your business. We just hired a new CFO at Bottomline, actually, and he was, sharing some stories, some of his war stories from the field, and he was saying, "You're the first CMO where I'm looking at the data and I could say, okay, every dollar I give her, this is where it's going to be invested and this is the return." He said, "At one of my previous companies, I was convinced to give the CMO an increase in budget of 50% and promised all of these metrics that would come to fruition and never saw it." So to your question is, do other executive teams understand that? Are they looking for it? I think unless you've seen it in action, it's hard to know what you're looking for. Would be
I agree. That's my only explanation for why CMOs have such a hard time convincing, and especially in some companies where the CMO doesn't have enough political power to say, this is what I'm going to do. It's very, very hard to get the momentum that you need to come in and prove that and to actually show that. So, I mean, I've often thought, Christine, maybe the next book we write is what you need to know as an executive team that you don't know now about marketing. I mean, or even the 18 months to revenue idea, which is exactly your MO. You come into a company and it's 18 months and it's got revenue on the board. But it's just the damnedest thing to me that executives, especially a CEO, if you think about a CEO, they have a fiduciary responsibility to drive the highest level of value for shareholders. And if they're not optimizing how all of the resources get used in a company, and I think so many CEOs really don't know that they can use marketing in a new way. And did you ever think, 5-10 years ago, that we'd still be sitting here having this conversation like this?
I didn't, but I'm just so pleased and so proud of our CEO and the executive team at Bottomline, because as soon as they heard that, they were like, yes, we are all in, and have put all their muscle behind it. But the only thing I can think of is there's a lot of noise when you're the CEO. You've got, strong leaders in sales, strong leaders in product. And if you don't have the room as a CMO to get in and prove the model out, you're going to be shut down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And those louder voices are going to put you in a corner.
Yeah. I've written several times about how I think there's an unconscious bias against CMOs. And I'm not saying people are bad, not at all. It's just that, you grew up in business and marketing had a certain thing that they did. And so as marketing is transformed into this revenue marketing machine, it just takes time. And to me, that's one of the number one things that a CMO does, and something that you've done so beautifully, I know, in at least your last two companies, is to educate that executive team around the possibilities.
Exactly. And it's funny, even now, as we have new leaders coming into the business, I have to re-educate them. Folks that just, come in and, as your words are perfect, make it pretty department. They look to marketing to produce the data sheet and to put on the trade shows. But when I start to engage on compensation plans, they get a little bit different on that. Well, as an officer of the company and a shareholder, the way you compensate your sales team and therefore how they translate our leads into real revenue for the company matters to me.
Exactly.
And that's kind of a bit of a shock for sales leaders coming in that have never worked with a CMO in that capacity before.
And I'm sure you handle it beautifully, because I know you. They don't know what hit them, Christine. So,
we'll get that offline for a glass of wine.
Yeah, we'll absolutely do that. So, I know that in your last couple of companies, you've been that kind of pioneering CMO who has said, look, marketing can make a big impact on revenue and growth. And as our world becomes more and more digital, I mean, the role of marketing and growth is just even more important now than it ever was before. And you and I have talked about revenue marketing, and I know that you apply revenue marketing principles. How has using revenue marketing principles helped you in your career as a CMO?
I think if I look at the roles that have most shaped my career, the time I spent in operations, and it's so in line with the book you just wrote around strategic marketing operations from the back boardroom. It's 100% spot on. The time that I spent in operations, first of all, gave me line of sight to all of the disciplines across marketing and how, as a CMO, you have to orchestrate those disciplines to get the optimal results. And that covers everything. And thought leadership and branding, but it also really grounds you. If you're in an operational role, it grounds you in the data and the tech and the tools. And that is how you scale. When I think about what has really allowed us to punch above our weight class at Bottomline, it's the data, the tech, and the tools. And as we amass more data, the more scientific and prescriptive and better we can serve our customers and our clients. We're not Coca-Cola. We're not trying to serve 22 billion people. We have really targeted markets, so we can be really precise in putting ourselves in their shoes and delivering content that is relevant, about things that are keeping them up at night, that are pertinent to their jobs. It's personalized across the right channels at the right time in the buy cycle.
And you have a very sophisticated marketing operations organization at Bottomline. And I love the fact that you had a tour of duty in operations, and it really has helped inform. And I think I even write about that in my book. I think that future CMOs will be coming from marketing operations because it's just too much to understand. At a minimum, the head of marketing operations and the CMO are like best buds. You absolutely positively have to be. So I think you're right. I think that tour of duty in marketing operations is very important. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is, you have worked more than once at global organizations. And it's one thing to say, yeah, we're going to do revenue marketing and have beautiful marketing operations and contribute to revenue and growth as a US-based company. But how do you do that on a global scale? And what have been some of your challenges?
I think one of the challenges, honestly, is just time zones. But with the global pandemic, that has made it easier. Since everybody's working from home, it's not like my team has to be in the office at 4 a.m. to connect with other time zones. It's easier to do that from home. One of the other challenges is honestly just the further you kind of get away from a headquarters type mentality, the more you have sales, I think, as wanting more of a field marketing type arm, which is more execution, very tactical, run the programs I'm asking you to run. So we really have worked hard to empower and educate our folks across the globe. Most recently with the program that you developed for us, the Revenue Marketing Certification Program, I want every single member of the team, whether you're in Singapore or Sydney or Germany, being educated and being able to be empowered and stand on their own 2 feet in terms of using the data, being that consultant back to the business, getting out of that order taker mentality. So I think it comes from having a strong centralized team that can help spread those tentacles out to the field, but then also really getting everybody on the same page with what we're trying to accomplish as an organization, and then giving them the tools they need to do their job effectively.
And I think I have observed that a real great strength of yours in leadership is getting people on the same page and then empowering them to do what they need to do. So you just do that beautifully with your organization.
We had so much fun doing the role playing after we had the question about how to say no gracefully and how to really tease out what the real business problems are instead of saying, go do this. We had a lot of fun with that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And I had worked with Christine, and we just, we said, let's take a look at some revenue marketing principles and let's do them equally to everybody within the marketing organization. So we just had 4 little classes, and people went away and they did things. And again, there's so much power in doing something as simple as that, right? Giving everybody a North Star and something to feel good about and to aspire to, and then work toward, that's just, to me, the epitome of great leadership, Christine. So we've kind of talked about the pandemic a little bit, we've kind of woven it in and out of the conversation, but what have been some of the lessons learned, the good and the bad and the ugly from, us going through the pandemic? How has it affected marketing?
I think more than anything, you realize how tone deaf some marketing can be and the need to really assess as a marketer everything that you're communicating out at that point in time. So when the pandemic first hit last March, we literally shut down every single thing that we were doing. We pressed pause and we came together as a team and said, okay, our customers still really need us. If you look at the business of what Bottomline does, we're automating financial technology and financial management. So when more in the history of, digital transformation do banks and corporates need automation around their payments and receivables? It's during a pandemic because no one can get to a bank. Nobody can get into the office to cut paper checks. So we realized that we still had a really important role to play for our customers in the middle of all this, but that we had to be really sensitive and put ourselves in their shoes. And so we coined the term marketing as a public service. And we stopped doing anything that was remotely pushy or salesy or tone deaf. Literally everything we did from the lens of, we think this is where you're at right now. If you don't want to talk to us, that's fine. But here's what we're doing. Here's how we can help. And our CEO actually put out a call to action that every single one of our 10,000 plus customers got called. Every single customer got a personal phone call from somebody at Bottomline just to check in, just to say, how are you doing? We're here. So the whole orientation of the company from the top down, with that initiative from the CEO to our goal of marketing as a public service, it really transformed how we talk to our audiences, and we've maintained that. And the results are so interesting. Our top of the funnel increases skyrocketed during the pandemic, like off the charts. But we were truly not trying to sell a thing. It was, all we're trying to do is say, here's how we can help. If you need our help, we're here. We're committed to you. That's it. No sales push. And it was really powerful, the way we changed the way we interact with our prospects and our customers.
I love that. I just got chills just listening to that, because one of the things that we've all learned during the pandemic is to be authentic. Yes. And to be real. And you're right, I love your language. We just been tone deaf. We just doing crap, right? Yeah. And just taking the time to really listen and acknowledge how people are feeling and what they're experiencing. I absolutely love that. Many years ago, there was a commercial. I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if it was TWA or United Airlines. And there was this, it was all men, of course. And they were in a room, and, we just lost our second biggest customer. And the CEO was just standing there, and he's saying, we are not going to lose another customer. And he hands out TWA tickets to everybody. We're going to go see all of our customers. But I think that, no longer being tone deaf, and I've heard this from many people and I've seen it, is we really now, because of the pandemic, are smarter and more authentic in engaging with customers, right? Yeah. And really understanding them and, cutting through all the corporate BS, right? So now you guys started this initiative like in March, April last year?
Yep, right in March. Okay. We hit pause on everything we were doing. It was also very empowering for us as marketers to finally push back on those salespeople that just wanted to push product and say, absolutely not. This is where we're going to change the rules of engagement on how we speak to people. And if it doesn't fit in the box of marketing as a public service, it's not going out.
I love that.
It really had a big impact across the business.
Now, who came up with the idea of marketing as a public service?
So we were batting it around on our leadership team, and I was like, I couldn't get the words. And John Stevens, of course, our head of PR and comms, the word master, came up with marketing as a public service as the term, and we've embraced it. So that's been one of our core operating principles.
I love that. And your pipeline has exploded as a result of that. That's just phenomenal. What a great story for helping salespeople understand it's not always about pushing product, right? That exactly. you can do better business and have everything so much better just by being authentic. As a result of marketing as a public service, did the types of marketing activities you do change?
They did. We actually, one of the things that was really successful was exposing some of our own internal processes and how we were coping with the pandemic. As you know, a business of our size, a global business, we were really, again, honest and authentic with this is what we're seeing, here's how we're coping, this is what we're doing, and then here's how we're helping our small business customers. A big segment of the market, of our market, are small business corporations, from mom and pop shops all the way to mid-size, and then some enterprise multinationals as well. And so especially being able to be of service to the small businesses in the US and the UK in particular that were going through most traumatic experience a business could experience, having to shut down during that time frame, being able to help. We partnered with some of our bank channels to accelerate the access to the PPP loans for small businesses in the US. So being able to just be of service in that way. Our CEO said we can't make masks, we can't make ventilators, but if we can help get these small businesses access to cash, that's something that we can do.
That's such a great story, and kudos to the executive team and to your CEO and to all of the leadership at Bottomline Technologies for being real and for being authentic and for caring, quite frankly, because that kind of thing, it absolutely totally pays. Okay. So, you've been a CMO for how many years now, Christine?
Oh, 7 or so.
7 or so years.
Yeah.
And what do you wish you knew 7 years ago that you know today?
To take pleasure in the everyday wins and to make time for your health and your work-life balance. No one can do that for you. People ask all the time, what's the secret to work-life balance? And there is no secret. The only thing I could say that I wish I knew 10 years ago is it's in your hands. You've got to set the boundaries. You've got to create the roadmap for what you want your life to look like. Home, personal, family, and especially over the past year with the health of loved ones and being close to family, that is the most important thing. And I wish I wasn't on a plane so much 10 years ago, I guess.
I couldn't have said it better myself. March was International Women's Month, and I spoke to a group of women across the globe at Manhattan Associates. And one of the things that I told them was that if you're not flourishing in your professional life or in your personal life, you need to change it, right? And the power's in your hands. It really is. I mean, life is just too short to be unhappy. And, I think a lot of times women feel like, we can do everything, right? And we take on things, but the only person that can set our boundaries are ourselves. There's nobody else. And then I also told them to get a good therapist, right? Because I believe in therapists. Because you know what they do? They give you life lessons that you don't learn otherwise. And it's just some of the best training you will ever get. And one of the things they teach you is how to set your own boundaries, which I love. And they wanted to talk endlessly about therapy after that. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't have the same kind of nuance that it used to. I added one other aspect to the show, and I didn't tell you this, but I'm going to go ahead and try it on you anyway. If you had one question to ask me, what would it be?
One question to ask you. If you could change one thing about revenue marketing today, what would it be?
Oh, very simple. We talked about at the very beginning that executives would understand it and get it and embrace it as a company-wide practice versus a marketing-only practice.
All right, so that was a softball.
That was a softball. Do you have a hard one for me?
No, that was my question. And I think beginning and ending on the same thing, though, I think makes a lot of sense. And that is the most important thing, because until you have that support and that acknowledgement of revenue marketing as a function, you're constantly going to be trying to push a boulder up the hill.
Constantly. I completely agree. And nobody teaches it in school. We've talked about that before.
No,
there's just going to be pioneers like you who just go out there and make it happen every day. So thank you, Christine, for being on the show. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Deb. Appreciate it. Take care. Have a good day.
Welcome. And that's our show, Get Real with Revenue Marketing. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks.